So it goes from bad to even worse for Donald Trump. I want Harry Litman to break it down with me about Donald Trump's disastrous end of last week in court. Harry Litman, of course, hosts the Talking Feds podcast, and he runs the Talking Feds YouTube channel. Make sure you subscribe. So, Harry, here's what Donald Trump posted on Friday, whining in all caps. Can anybody believe that I am still under a harsh gag order placed on me by a highly conflicted, unelected, and acting New York judge, which makes it very difficult to campaign, especially when crazy Kamala Harris is using the witch hunt against me. Every major legal scholar, scam, hoax, case should be terminated, all caps. Immediately, just Harry, that just like it shows you that he's unfit right there, just based on that behavior. He's now blaming the fact that he's losing in the polls to Vice President Kamala Harris on Justice Merchan. What he's referring to, I guess, is that the appellate division rejected his further emergency appeal to remove the remaining aspects of the gag order that Justice Merchan has kept in place that just simply precludes Donald Trump from attacking basically family members of the district attorney and family members of the court and some other district attorney and court staff at this point. Justice Merchan removed the gag order as it relates to witnesses and as it relates to jurors. But now Donald Trump's whining about this, and he's like, can anybody believe you're a convicted felon on 34 separate felony counts? This guy can believe it. You should probably be incarcerated right now. And the fact that you aren't is what this guy can't believe. What about you, Harry?
That's really the big point. I don't mean to be gleeful, but I love this because what it says is just as, I was at the trial and we saw Trump brought to heel, having to actually obey the lead set by Judge Merchan. And people thought, oh, now it would all go away. Wrong. Except if he becomes president, a big except, I'll grant you. He is going to be under the supervision of a court, including Merchan, I think for the rest of his life. Probation, for example, which he's likely to get, whether or not he gets a short jail term, that's a restriction on liberty in many ways. Pretty please, the man who never has had to, who does whatever he wants, going to have to say, pretty please, can I go away? Pretty please, can I have my passport? Pretty please, can I go to Barron's graduation? And he is not any longer an innocent man in the eyes of the law. Couple little substantive points. Every legal scholar who's looked at it says it's wrong. I'd say that would be the actual would be zero legal scholars have said it's wrong. It's so pedestrian. He is now in a position still to influence the court, the proceedings, and endanger, as you say, the families of court personnel. That is just straight up the kind of situation where you get a gag order, and none of it has anything to do with the campaign trail. But man, oh man, I take your point. He is unhinged about it, right? He is really flailing. How can this be, et cetera, et cetera. It's a modest kind of restriction, but it's the fact of the restriction that he cannot abide. And guess what? He better get used to it. It is a lifetime of such restrictions. He is no longer presumed innocent. He's a convict, and he's gonna have to follow instructions laid down by the court. It's a pretty reasonable court, pretty reasonable instructions, but just the fact that he's not free to do what he wants to, I think is a really important message in and of itself.
So the next move he makes is for the third time trying to recuse Justice Merchan. And because he can't publicly attack Justice Merchan's daughter under the gag order, Trump tries to be clever by half. And so he writes this motion knowing he's going to lose because he's lost it twice and lost it before the appellate division. and he asks Justice Merchan more like demands and then puts a bunch of conspiracy theories in this
Right.
to recuse himself on the basis that Justice Merchan's daughter works for a political campaigning firm, purportedly, that's worked with candidates and in the past, Trump claims, worked with Vice President Kamala Harris. The judge addressed these issues when Trump submitted a affirmation many months ago. It feels like maybe even like 6 months, 9 months ago on this issue. Found it to be not only without merit, but like wholly without merit and entirely frivolous. Trump went to the appellate division. They didn't even want to hear it. It was basically so frivolous. Trump tried it again, and now he's trying it one more time. I think he knows he's going to lose it, Harry. Maybe he personally doesn't. His lawyers know that he's going to lose, but it's also just shows you, I just think, the pettiness. Judge, you're not going to let me attack your daughter publicly.
Right.
I'll put it in a motion and make it look like it's a legal filing. What do you think?
But except the motion is, like you say, that this guy is a broken record legally. There's nothing he says that he hasn't said several times before. So you wonder, is this actually supposed to be a bona fide legal claim that's been blown out of the water? Is it supposed to just set up a grievance for the next political rally with the MAGA faithful and how he is, being crucified for them? But his arguments, A, are lousy, but B, they're always the same. They're always ones that have been rejected again and again and again. And so the bottom line here, you were there. Well, I mean, you followed it very closely. I was there at the time. Merchan, very reasonable, thoughtful, circumspect guy, gave him a lot of breaks. But the things he decided against him, and Trump just can't keep from continuing to do it when it is stuff that is DOA. So I think, by the way, that's gonna be the guiding principle all around the horn. Is he still these cases, which he's gotten a lot of breaks on, but they're still alive in different respects. He's just going to say the same thing again and again and again, and courts get impatient with that, and they're not a recipe for getting ahead legally speaking. So it's either just completely silly, or maybe to try to set up, as you say, like a political talking point. But one thing it isn't is designed to carry the day legally. And really, Merchan, the idea of recusing him under the law of New York is just a non-starter.
Harry, when I was a practicing lawyer, there was a division in my firm that handled criminal cases, and the lawyer who was the leader of the criminal department, he had told me how really kind of rare it is, though, when someone is convicted of felonies, not to be remanded into custody on the spot when you're convicted of felonies. Or especially extra rare that it's just like, all right, you're now a felon. Come back in 4 or 5 months. We'll see you then. And not to say that doesn't happen ever, but in this specific case, the fact that Donald Trump is not incarcerated, or that the sentencing has been pushed, and I get the Supreme Court, made the ruling, but Donald Trump's gotten every possible break imaginable from his handpicked judges giving him an immunity in other cases. So ultimately, when he talks about weaponization, the only people who have been convicted so far in this weaponization, with all this Trump weaponization talk, was Hunter Biden, the president's son, and a Democratic senator were convicted and going through the process the normal way. Trump's gotten all of these breaks. So I'll let you have the final word, but that's just my final
No. Look, so you really said it. I've been in court. I'm a prosecutor. I've been in court a lot where the guilty verdict comes in, and it's a really poignant moment. It gives me no pleasure. The defendant might be taking off his jewelry and handing it to his parents and getting remanded and the like. We always knew it wouldn't happen to Trump, but it's Yeah, there's no other way to say it. It's a break he gets because of who he is. He probably should get it, right? I mean, you for all kinds of reasons wouldn't stick him in the pokey now during a campaign, even though it's not illegal. But Mayor Chun, I mean, here's another thing we know. He violated gag orders 10 times. And Mayor Chun said again and again, all I got left now is to put you in jail. And it's the last thing I want to do. It's not because of anything about Trump, but who he is in the country, that in fact the courts have cut him break after break. But this one point we should really remember, because it feels like, oh, trial is over. Trial is over, but he is a convict. He is not an innocent man. And that means that courts have authority over him, can tell him what to do, should be able to tell him what to do. And that just, wigs him out, I think would be the legal term.
There's been astronomical growth on the Talking Feds YouTube channel. So everybody, make sure you check out the Talking Feds YouTube channel, subscribe there. Harry's on his way to 500,000 subscribers, and I think you'll hit 500,000 by the election. We'll see if I'm right, but keep on growing that. Don't doubt me. Keep on growing.
I'm not doubting you. That meant from your lips to somebody's ears. So thank you. To all your listeners' ears.
Thanks, Harry.
Thank you, Ben.
Real quick, Meta just changed their algorithm to suppress political content. Please follow our Instagram at MeidasTouch right now as we head towards 400,000 followers so you don't miss a beat.